We are live. It is 3:03 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8:03 p.m. I guess GMT. Yeah, it's GMT. It's not British summertime, right?
And it's actually GMT.
It is GMT, and it is 4:03 Eastern Standard Time. The reason why I mentioned that is because we have a guest on the show today who is in the Eastern Standard Time zone. This is the Nomad Tech Project. Sam and Joe, the worst podcast you should be listening to. The best podcast you've ever heard of, or something. I don't know. If you're watching the stream, and if you're not, you should be. We have a special guest. We have Darren from One Cut Reviews decided to spend an hour of his time that he's never going to get back and waste it.
It's not just Darren, it's Darren the creator. Get it right.
Darren the creator, yes.
Absolutely. Yes. Welcome to the show, sir. First-time call, long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks for showing up and taking some time.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
How are you doing there today in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it's a beautiful fall day here in Toronto. So I've finally got a little bit of sun come out. It's starting to get cold over here. I don't know about you guys, but the weather's starting to turn.
Yeah, it rained all day here in St. Louis, and it's kind of cool, but it's okay. It's just pretty typical fall weather. It's a couple of weeks ago it was in the 30s, and then it got to the 80s, and it's like welcome to the American Midwest, right? The weather's always says if you don't like the weather, give it 20 minutes and you'll be fine. So that's how it works around here.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's just raining and misting and cold because it's the UK.
Yeah, pretty much on and off today. Rain. It's depressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that time of the year. It's like the weather can't make its mind up, right? It's like it wants to be cold and it wants to be hot at the same time. So
sure, it's got a personality disorder. It's whatever. The weather.
But it looks like it's going to stop raining. Let's go to the park. Oh no, it's raining again.
Well, plus it's like one of those things where people just start to kind of enjoy the weather and the colors, and it's like, and it seems like fall and spring or autumn. It seems like there's not enough that time. It seems like in the springtime, it gets real hot almost like immediately now, and in the fall, you got like late October, early November, and then it's back into the 30s. You're like, wait a second. It's like, we were supposed to get, assuming we're supposed to get 3 months of weather.
Yes.
we get like a preview. It's like a 7-day demo of
all
fall,
messed up now.
And then they want you to pay money, and then it's you cancel your subscription. They're like, okay, well, it's snow time. So have a nice day.
Here in Toronto, I don't know about you guys there, but basically we have 2 seasons. It's either snowing or it's like not snowing. So that's pretty much like how we normally do things right here. So
which is funny because do people so I know in places that have like a lot of snow like that, usually snow removal and traffic usually goes pretty good. And I know in like Minneapolis, when I went there, it seems like people do a lot better because they're assuming that it's going to snow between October and like late April.
Yeah.
So road crews are pretty good, but also drivers are used to driving in inclement weather, so they're a little better than maybe nobody. But I don't know. Minneapolis is a little hit or miss, but better than Missouri for sure.
I would probably say it's pretty bad here, if I'm being honest. Like the roads are cleared and they do a good job clearing it all out, but the drivers are just atrocious. Anybody who tell you come to Toronto in winter, it's like you're fighting against the everything, not just the weather, the people. Their idea of what the speed limit should be and how they should drive their car in the winter months, right? Like it's just chaos here.
Well, they tell you about the speed limit sign because it has a black border. It's optional. That's what that means, right? It's the stop sign. If the stop sign's got a white border, it's optional. You don't have to stop for it. It's like, just keep going. So it's
things in the UK. If we get half the snow you get, everything's locked down and shut.
Right.
Yeah. Everyone panics. We can't handle it.
Right.
It's mad.
So, it's okay. Right. Most people in the UK just walk everywhere. I mean, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, if you got like you're on these major highways, there used to be I guess it was it wasn't the precursor to TikTok, right? It was like Vines. That guy from the UK he's talking about. The fucking M25. It's like he goes, "We're not moving. It's a fucking learner drive." And it's like he's always yelling at the traffic. Apparently, in the UK, traffic is a complete nuts, and it's like I guess you might as well it's better just to walk places because it's like you just park your car and it's like, I park it and just walk to the shop because it's
the M25 car park.
Yeah, that's what they call it. So, which is interesting because remember, the UK is an old country. So those roads were not made for larger kind of vehicles, right? And I just imagine, can you imagine like a super like an F-250 massive truck trying to get through London? It'd be impossible. It's like, that's why they don't have those cars in the UK. It's like, get like a Excursion, right? A Ford big, huge American SUV. And like, dude, you couldn't even get down the street. It'd be like, there's like 5 inches of space. I'm like, forget it. We'll just
I think that's a North American thing, right? To have the big trucks and
in Canada it's the same thing. You got a lot of interior areas and stuff like that. So a lot of people have off-road vehicles or 4-wheel drive vehicles or whatever, because a lot of Canada is, I mean, honestly, most of the country is undeveloped. It's pretty much wilderness.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most part, especially northern, like all those cities. You're talking like, Northern Territory and the Yukon. It's like, forget it. It's like there's like people who live there.
Yeah, it's made for the weather, right? Like those trucks are largely is just to fight against, the elements more than anything here, especially here in Canada. I mean, also in the States here too. I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, I had a Toyota Tacoma, which is a kind of like a mid-sized pickup truck, and it was a lovely car to drive. But at the end of the day, I ended up trading it in just for an SUV, because I was just finding that with the Tacoma, the tray itself, if you didn't have something in the back of the tray, those wheels are just turning all over the road in the snow, right? So SUV a little bit more sticks to the ground, right, and a little bit easier to drive, I guess.
Absolutely. And so it's funny you mentioned you live in Toronto.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's not a Canadian accent. So I guess we get started with a little bit of origin
There's a
story.
twang there, though. But
I guess my question is, like, how does a bloke like you end up in the Great White North, and how did that start? If just the basics of your creation story and how you started the channel and how you wound up in Canada of all places.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Perth, Western Australia, is where I was born and bred. Basically, when I was in university, I was studying and happened to bump into a few Canadian students who happened to be visiting our fair country and studying the same program that I was. And one caught my eye in particular. And one thing led to another, and we got married and we ended up living in Australia for a bit there, and then one day we were both working at the same place. We're both working in education, and we woke up one morning and just kind of looked at each other and went, "This kind of sucks. We kind of hate this place. Let's go try something completely different." And she was originally from Toronto, so we decided that we were going to give it a go over here. And then I kind of got a little bit bedazzled by Canadian culture and ended up staying. We've been here ever since, right?
Well, and the funny thing is, you mentioned Toronto. That's not Toronto's. I know that for people who have never been to the city, I have twice. Yeah, it's. I mean, this is in the '90s, so maybe it's a little different. I haven't been recently, but I was just like, man, this place is pretty sweet. Like streets are. Yeah. I mean, it's a very modern. Which I don't assume that Canada would be modern, but it's just like compared to American cities, it just had a different kind of vibe to it. It was very clean. It was.
That's what I was going to say. Everyone tells me it's very clean,
and it was easy to get around places. People were super friendly. Like if you were lost, and you could clearly tell you're an American, right? And then you were like, I don't know where this, I don't know how to get to the. We're trying to get to the stadium. Like we're trying to get to the and we're like, I don't know where the hell to go. And this is in the '90s, so there wasn't like you didn't have a phone. You didn't have Google Maps. You're like, I don't know how to get to the park. I don't know how to get to the.
I think that's the thing. I was just going to say, I think that's the thing that most connects me to Australia. Like in Australia, it's a very similar kind of environment and vibe. Like the people there are willing to help you out. They're willing to do. They're willing to give you the shirt off your back with what we say in Australia. When I came to Canada, I found very similar. Like I always said that the only difference between Canada and Australia and in Perth, where I'm from, was that the weather. That was the people are very much the same, right? Like they're very friendly. They're willing to kind of give you whatever you need to kind of get by and help you out. And that was a nice like parody, right? It was nice to go from one place to another and still have that. Just the weather basically is the only thing that really kind of separates the two places, right? But I agree with you. It's an amazing place to visit, and lots to see and do. It's the first time I've ever heard it described as clean. Not that it's not clean, but it's just an interesting perception for people who have been there before or never heard of it.
Literally,
right?
Everyone I speak to say, "Oh, yeah, Canada's really clean." I don't know why they always say
crazy.
that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it's like I don't even know what that description would apply to. Like, I mean, sure, it's very clean. We pick up after ourselves, we kind of.
Yeah, they don't in the UK, you see.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Just crazy connections between like Australia and Toronto, right? Like just how it is in Canada in general.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we went to Skydome and it was the cool thing is because it had like a hotel in center field.
Yes.
This is the wildest. It had the reach. Again, this was like, it was back. Now it's called, I guess, Rogers Center. I guess that's what it's called now.
Yes.
But but yeah, I just remember going there. I was like, it was a cool, and I'm a huge baseball fan, clearly, because I live in St. Louis, so we're a huge baseball
my
town.
son's a Blue Jays fan, so we were there a fair bit.
Yeah, so I mean, it was just like, but it was, I don't know, I guess it's not like it was like, it wasn't like, like I could drop food on the street and just eat it off the street, right? And everyone's like, it was, but it just, it had a different, it didn't feel like an American city. American cities have a tendency to kind of have the same kind of vibe to them. I've been to Boston, clearly rocking the wicked Pesa shirt today, but I've been to also like Nashville. I've been to San Antonio. I've been to a lot of cities in the United States, not a ton, but they all have the same kind of vibe to me, right? They're kind of real metropolitan and really lots of crowded, tall buildings, and they're kind of crowded, lots of people, and it just felt different there. I just couldn't kind of describe it. And again, I was only there just to go to a baseball game and just visit for a day, and then we were working in Detroit, so it was like a 6-hour drive. And it was just, it just was easy. It was just getting around was kind of fun. And then going to my first place in Windsor, Ontario is when I first learned about loonies and toonies and kind of how that worked. Because they had a Czechs bubble hockey, and the guy's like, it takes loonies, eh? I'm like, I don't know what that is. He's like, oh, it's a $1 coin. And he's like, okay. And I get the coin. It's like, oh, it's got a loon on the back. Okay, loon. Yes. Got it. Okay, cool. And then I asked for something else. He's like, oh, that takes a toonie. And I was like, what is going on? It's like, what is that? That's a $2 loon. It's a toonie, whatever. And I was like,
honestly,
it's the language. And again, you fit in great because Australians and Canadians have this thing about, and I guess Americans too, but slang. It's just like going to Australia, it's like Macca's. I'm like, we call McDonald's. I'm like, oh, okay. So trying to get the slang. So Canadians have the toque and a hoser, and it's just hilarious.
I'll be honest with you. I still struggle with some of the Canadian stuff. Like, I mean, and it's more like the loonies and toonies. I was like, when I first heard that here, I was like, what on earth are you talking about? Like, what is this loonies and toonies? And when I got explained to it, I mean, I understood it. I still think it's bizarre. I mean, I sort of come from Australia, and in Australia, we have a 50-cent coin, and the 50-cent coin for some bizarre reason is larger than the $1 and $2 coins, which you would think in value, size-wise, it would go the other way, but that just goes to show you of some of the crazy things that happen there too, right?
Right.
That's quite strange, though. Of all the rappers, you have 50 Cent.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, like his face is on it and everything.
Yeah, he's got this the medallion. It's like, dude, this is a 50-cent coin. I can't put it in like a Coke machine or anything because it doesn't fit. They just got to lay it on the ground and just
sorry, that was a bad dad joke. Sorry.
No, it was a good one. I had to think about it for a second. I'm like, shit, oh yeah, that's right. Yep, that guy.
So cool. Yeah. So I guess my question is, so you're in education, you get to Australia, I'm assuming your spouse is still in education and that kind of thing. So I guess so how did the One Cut reviews, how did the tech thing start? I'm just kind of curious because it doesn't sound like an educator or a person in an educational background going to tech isn't necessarily a logical progression stream. It kind of seems like that's kind of a skipping. You don't hear many educators. So I'm just curious how that started.
So there's a bit of a story. Bear with me on this one because it's a bit.
We love it. That's what we're here for. Is all the stories, right? So we're here
definitely.
For it. So go ahead, take your time.
Like the rest of the world, I buy a lot of things from Amazon, and occasionally I would leave product reviews, saying, hey, this is an amazing product, great. So one day I got an email to my personal email from one of these companies that I'd left a review for something I bought, and they were like, hey, we really like what you said here. Do you want to try some other products that we have? We'll send them out in exchange for a review. Now, for me, I was like, this is bullshit, spam, click, deleted. Got another email. I'm like, okay, you know what? What's the worst that can happen? Like, I give him my mailing address and I get 1,000 styrofoam cups or something. So I was like, okay, whatever. So they gave him my personal mailing address. They sent through another product. I reviewed it. Sure. No problems. Put up the review on Amazon. Then randomly, I guess someone else had maybe looking for the same product that I'd reviewed. So a guy named Michael, and he was from a now defunct website called Ego Magazine. It was a digital publication. And he wrote to me, and he's just like, hey man, I really like the way you wrote this review. I really like your tone and the language that you use. And he's like, I have this kind of small digital publication, and we're looking for somebody that could do what you did, review some products and kind of get the word out there as, some content for the website. and I was, I work. I'm a teacher by day, so I thought, okay, you know what, I can do it in my spare time. I've got a couple of hours of the week to spare. Sure, no problem. So I worked with Mike over at Ego Magazine for about a year and a half, and I'd written a bunch of product reviews for him. And sure enough, I got to the point where I was like, people seem to like these. Like they seem to really enjoy product reviews. Why don't I just kind of create a website where people can go looking for real reviews from a person who actually bought these products? And I know we were talking a little bit before the show about how, one of the fundamental problems with a lot of these review websites and review influencers, I guess we'll call them, if you will, is that they don't spend real time with the product. It's a week, 10 days, 14 days before they send it back. And yeah, sure enough. So I created a website, myself. I had never done it before. I kind of just YouTubed the tutorial on how to do it. I reached out to a few buddies of mine who I knew were in graphic design and a couple of to create the logo and like some content for the site. And I just started cold calling companies that I wanted to work with, right? Stuff that looked interesting to me. And cold emailing, I guess, is probably a better way to put it. And if for every review product that I've reviewed, I get about 1,000 no's. Especially in the beginning, it was like, who's this guy? Like, hit the bricks, buddy. Like, you're nothing. You're a nobody. But a few companies were pretty brave, and they were pretty. They wanted to take a chance. They'd never done anything like this before, and I reviewed their products. They really liked what I'd done. And yeah, sure enough, after some time, I guess kind of my reputation preceded me. Companies started to hear about what I was doing. They passed on information to their colleagues and friends at other publications and other organizations. And yeah, I got some recognition for what I was doing. And soon enough, like the cold calling and cold emailing stopped, and they started contacting me. It's kind of a really bizarre. I know it sounds bizarre. It's a bizarre story because I never thought it would take off the way that it did.
Well, and that's the funny thing, and that's how you know that you're at least doing quality work, and the fact that because like all of a sudden you don't even conceptualize. You're just like, yeah, I'm gonna have to be banging doors forever. I'm gonna have to be cold emailing people forever. Like, there's no way that this is gonna take off or kind of start to get momentum or whatever. And then it just all of a sudden it does, and then you're probably having these moments. See, we haven't gotten that far, Joe. We're not going to. It's okay. And like I said, we're
keep
totally
plugging
okay
away, Sam. Keep plugging away.
We'll just keep plugging away, and eventually we'll get like maybe 35 people that listen to the show on our iTunes.
But Darren, what I want to know is, did any of the people at the companies that said no, have any of them emailed you since you've got bigger?
Like come back around and go, hey, we remember you were like not
that has
shit,
happened,
but now you're like seeing like you got some traction. So hey, what's up, dude?
I bet you're so tempted to be like, well, I'm a bit busy at the moment.
Well, it's funny, especially like in the beginning when they were just saying like flat out no, like, thanks. I always get the thanks for your interest, but we're not interested in this time kind of emails, right? In the beginning, I was getting those all the time, like one in every 150 emails. I would maybe get a, hey, yeah, you can try this, sure, no problem. But every other one was just like, no. And some of these other, and I won't name them, but some of these other bigger companies, they came back, like they emailed me back, and it was funny. It was replying to the exact same email that I'd sent them 2 years prior, and they were basically saying, "Hey, we've seen your stuff on Instagram, and we've seen your website. It's great. Like, we're really happy to work with you now." And as much as I wanted to be like, sorry, I'm too busy. I can't make that happen right now. I wouldn't reply to the email for a couple of days just to keep them waiting. Right. But yeah, no, I mean, I try to open as many doors as I can because.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like for us, we don't spend any money on marketing our products. Like, we don't market the website, we don't market our Instagram. It's all generated through these companies sharing the review that I wrote. Right. So, for example, if we work with Google and they happen to share my review with their 10 billion followers, we might drum in a little bit of interest from that. And that's kind of one of the conditions of us kind of reviewing some of these products. We'll always say, no problem, happy to do it. Just make sure you kind of share it with your followers, and we can build out our infrastructure and our followership, I guess, from there, right?
Well, and you think about it too, because remember, it's like if you don't have a lot of footprint, you can't expect not every company's not just going to say, yeah, review our product. They don't know who you are.
course.
They never,
Yeah.
it's sight unseen. You almost, I mean, again, I don't think there should be a lot of gatekeeping, and maybe in some cases that is happening. But at the end of the day, it's like, I mean, when they go to look for you and they don't see any kind of like website, they don't see, it's like, is it just this guy who just basically is trying to basically sponge products? I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have any kind of real body of work to show and kind of show some track, I guess it's just the way it goes. I can't imagine that everybody just was like, oh, I don't like the way this guy looks. I don't know, he seems to be kind of sketchy, so we're just going to tell him flat out no. And maybe they do that with everybody. Maybe their first response to anybody just
of course,
is like, yeah, go pound sand, dude. We don't have time for your bullshit. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow. Then you make some reviews and it kind of starts to get traction. Then you end up in the situation where you are now. So I guess it's not necessarily a bad thing.
It was kind of funny because before I was doing product reviews, I've always loved to write. So writing was always something I was very passionate about. And my father passed away very young, about 3 or 4 years ago. And after that happened, I was trying to find a way to deal with my loss. As a young person, I was a very young person, and I am a young person. But when it happened, it caught everybody off guard. The family members, my sister, and all of this, and I had to go home and step into the role of what would have been my father, and dealt with organizing funeral arrangements and all of that. And when I got back home, I needed an outlet. I needed to voice what was going on in my head. And I wrote this article for a website called askmen.com. I don't know if you guys know of them.
I've heard of that, I think.
Yeah. So I wrote an article about, males dealing with loss. And I did it as a freelance job. I reached out to them and said, hey, I really need to share this with somebody. I think it's an important message for people to hear. And I wrote an article. They took it on board and they published it on their website. It was just, I think that was kind of like a moment too, where I just went, I kind of like doing this. Like, this is fun, right? It's something that I enjoy doing. And it was a big kind of cathartic moment for me because it allowed me to kind of, just get off my chest what was just holding me down. And it was not the easiest thing to write, especially because I was including photos of my actual father and stuff in the article, but they really enjoyed it. And I still have some friends there at askmen.com who I occasionally talk to. It just kind of reinforced this idea that I really enjoy writing, and I think that's really what it boils down to. Doing the product reviews, I think I'm also a big fan of technology, and I think I just kind of molded these two things together and said, hey, this is awesome. I can do the best of both these worlds, and I love to operate within. And that was kind of how it really kind of took off from there.
Yeah, and that's interesting. So like using something as like a catharsis, or just kind of being able to express loss or anything that's going on, and the fact that you can kind of leverage that, and just I don't think at the time you weren't even forward thinking about the fact that it was like you didn't know about the article, right? You just kind of went. And I think that's a lot of times you'd be surprised how well, I guess, your work is received when it's really being done from a good point of view.
It's funny you say that though. When my dad passed away, I'm not much of a writer at all, but I wrote a little poem about him, and it helped me as well. So I totally get where you're coming from, like getting some stuff down on paper.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it was just, that internal monologue, the voice in your head that you hear, right? And, I think if you don't deal with that after a loss, that can drive you crazy, right? Like that was what was doing it for me. Like when I was flying back home from Australia, and I literally was in the middle of a school year. Like we had just finished exams. I had to rush home at the end of the exams. I was gone for a couple of weeks. I came off the plane and went right into the very next semester. I didn't get any time to kind of sit and process. So I think when I wrote that article, that was the moment that kind of and it gave me the outlet, I guess, to kind of just share, I guess, get off, like I said, get off my chest, or like, how do I put this? Get the internal talk out of my head and just kind of start to focus again, right?
Right,
you can't sleep, can you? You can't sleep. It's all in your head.
Yeah, it's just it's like you're hearing their voice, and you're remembering like the memories, and like it's like almost like a haunting, right? It's an insane feeling to have. But yeah, I mean, I guess, like you said, I mean, if there was a moment that kind of like brought it all together for me and just kind of allowed me to kind of refocus myself on, my passion for writing and, just kind of being able to put down on paper, what was going on. I think that was it, right? Like that's was a big turning point, a big moment.
Yeah, and like I said, with me, when my mom passed in 2020, it was kind of sort of expected. Well, I mean, I kind of knew my mom was in kind of not great health, and she wasn't exactly one of these people who's like going out and running 5 miles a day. She was kind of didn't take her health seriously and didn't listen to doctors and kind of did all that.
Yeah.
And so one of her, I told my daughter, which was her granddaughter, I said, maybe you want to spend some time with Grandma Felicia because I don't think she's going to be, we're not going to have a whole lot more time. And my buddy talked to me, and he had his mom had passed a few years before that. He said, what I've noticed that I'm starting to forget her voice, like how it sounds.
Yeah.
And so he goes, do yourself a favor. If, luckily, unfortunately, my mom was, again, when we were all those times to capture video and audio, it wasn't, the 90s and 80s, right? So all those things when my mom was my age. So he just do yourself a favor. And so I remember she called me that day to kind of do what she normally did, was kind of pester me about bringing stuff to her. Like, hey, don't forget this and don't forget the sodas. I'm like, God, Mom. The things I kind of used to kind of roll my eyes and kind of go, God, fine, Mom. I was like, I got to deal with my own stuff, right? I'm running groceries for her all the time. But, and so what's funny is that conversation I had at 5 o'clock, she left a voicemail and I called her right back. And then at 10 o'clock that night, I got the phone call that she had passed away.
Yeah.
So I took that audio, that voicemail, and I ripped it out and saved that audio just because he told her, he goes, do me a favor because I'm starting to forget like how she actually sounded. And that's the problem with I can remember what she said, but the actual tonality and the content of her voice, I'm lost. It's been 5 years. I've never heard her speak. And so he listens to video and those kind of things and audio clips, and it kind of reminds him of how his mom is. And so, it's just, it's like George Carlin says, I love this is one of his bits, but he goes, he's making a joke about the sanctity of life, right? Which is kind of funny, but he always goes, the thing he says is that everything that's ever lived is dead and everything that's currently alive is going to die.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just the way it is, right? And it's supposed to be that way, and you never really think about it, but when it happens, it's kind of unfortunate. So, interesting how you could take that, how you're dealing with grief and pain and loss, and kind of how to just expressing it, and how maybe other people, and I know we have some people in the chat are making comments about it, how that can kind of put it in a perspective for them and kind of help them with dealing with it. Because I said it's not a roller coaster. It's like a tumble dryer, right? It just kind of goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard. I get it.
Yeah. No, I think it's an important thing for people to hear, right? And I think that was the reason I wrote the article, because I was a young man. I was in my early 30s, and basically this was my opportunity to say, hey, you know what? Here is what men deal with, especially males, because males tend to kind of be very closed books, right? A lot of the time,
right. Internalizing things, right?
Yeah, and like I was doing that, right? So I like writing this was just a powerful thing, right? And then, like I said, how it kind of pivoted into tech. I love writing, and technology is something I'm very passionate about. And we've talked about, even just with the podcast, Friday Night Fury. Which, if you don't mind, just me shamelessly plugging here.
Oh, please, because I actually am part of that every Friday.
So I mean, I was telling you guys just before the show, like that was something else that I just randomly one day decided. I had a background in radio. I was one of these guys who went to university for an arts degree, and
you're that guy. Okay,
I'm that guy. Yeah. So I had no idea what I wanted to do when I went to university. I had these grand, this grand vision of being in film. And I remember first year university, I did an intro to film course, and I barely passed it. I got what's called a conceded pass here in Australia, right. Which is basically the equivalent of the professor saying, "You're really crap, but you have some good ideas, but I don't want to
at least you stayed in there and you did some of the work, and at least you stayed engaged." So,
yes.
You got an E for effort grade is what you got.
Yeah, basically. So after that, after my first year, I was kind of left like, what do I do? Like, I know I wanted to do something in, I was into journalism and I wanted to do something in the technology space. And I don't know how or why, but I always loved music. And I thought to myself, okay, you know what? Let's use that as a catalyst for, maybe some kind of profession. And I did it. I did a degree in radio production. Worked a little bit in radio, realizing that there was no money in radio, and B, I didn't want to get up at like 3 a.m. every single day.
Forget that.
One crack of dawn, going, oh god,
yeah.
To talk to like our show, broadcasting to no one listening. Yeah, we get it, yeah, and trying to make a living off of it. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah,
but that's what it was. I mean, that for me, like, I mean, I knew how to run a show, and I heard about Twitter Spaces and just going, oh, this is an interesting concept here. Like, what happens if I just started a show called Friday Night Fury and I just hit the record button? I didn't know anybody. I think Delvon, who you've had on the show before,
cool guy.
I'd sent a message to him just saying, hey, dude, like, I think I'm going to start this like show podcast. I didn't even know what it was going to be called. And he's like, do you want to come on? And he's like, sure. So like the very first episode, I don't know if you guys have gone back, but it was just literally like Darren and I. And
I'll check it out. I'll definitely check it out.
Oh, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. Michael Pepper Tech's in there, Delavon's in there, Ace is in there. There's a couple. And speaking of, there he is, Michael Pepper Tech, our man. We had him on the show.
Hey Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Hopefully he's feeling a little better. He's kind of fighting some like cold flu issues and wasn't feeling good. He missed his podcast. But yeah, I don't even honestly, and I know this is gonna sound bad. And I don't care about out my own self. Like, I don't even know how I got involved in it. I guess I didn't really know any of these. I didn't know Delavon. I didn't know anybody. And just like, I don't even know how I got pulled into it. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I guess I just saw it.
So I pulled you back into it, mate. That's how.
Right. And it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. And we just talk about, as with everything, right? You have a concept, a discussion, a question, and then everybody puts like 45 minutes of talking to it because these concepts can't be like easily discussed. And then by the time we turn around, like, holy shit, it's already been an hour and a half. We gotta go. And Darren's like, all right, well, see you guys. We gotta go because we got nothing left. So we talked about literally one of the things out of this.
I write a script every single week. And what I mean by that is just like some talking points.
Yeah.
And I think every week we get through one. Like I've had like I occasionally I'll kind of like pivot through them.
Yeah, he says at the beginning, okay, we want to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about this. So let's start with the first topic, and then that entire topic just completely derails the whole show.
And that's okay. Yeah. I mean, it's fine. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think for me, it was just trying to find people that think about technology the way that I do. Right. I mean, I'm by no means, like a critical person, and I'm by no means somebody that knows everything. But it's always nice to kind of find and meet people like yourselves that kind of are into the same things, right? And it's just kind of like I hate to use this term, digital town square, I think, or whatever you want to call it. But and like and all of these people that have managed to come along and join us on the on the podcast are people that have, like yourself, Sam, have just found it. I think because it's advertised on Twitter Spaces, right? Like it's like Friday Night Fury, a weekly tech smackdown. That sounds amazing. Why not, right? So. And I mean, everybody that joins, I always send them a request to speak, right? Like, because I don't know, you just don't know who's going to be great and who's not going to be. Haven't had to kick anyone off yet, so so which is good.
I've not been on there yet. That's why.
So, Joe, you're more than welcome, buddy. I don't know what time that translates into over there in the UK.
It'll be Friday. Like what? Let's see, it's 6:30 on Eastern or 7:30 Eastern, so it's 6:30 my time.
1 in the morning, maybe.
It'd be late, and it's on a
Friday,
doable.
So, it's doable one day.
You just gotta be there. He's gotta lock himself in his room, and he's gonna be maybe quiet.
I'll turn up really pissed though, because I'll be drinking.
Oh, perfect.
Well, that's okay. That's probably even better. I mean, we should honestly. Yeah. So
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think most of the people who join us are at least a little tipsy.
Oh yeah, I've got a couple. By Friday night, I'm usually a couple.
Sam doesn't drink normally, do you, Sam? You never done that.
Well, it's funny. Honestly, I actually didn't really start drinking. I didn't really drink much until I was like in my mid-20s.
Until you had kids.
It just wasn't a thing.
Right.
And then I had children, and it's like I got to have alcohol because these people. Many people. So now we're going to leverage back into. You seem like an iPhone guy. Remember, it seemed like your history has been very much iPhone, and then Pixel happened, and you're kind of like you sound like you're in this kind of like. I don't really know where to be. Like, it's almost like you don't want to love the Pixel, but you kind of got to, and you're kind of like in this weird space. So I was curious, like, how that worked. I mean, seriously, he was like, he's an iPhone guy, and this Pixel, he's like, damn, this thing's so good. It's like, I almost like, I don't really know what to do, man. I'm kind of like all fucked up. My head's all jacked up. I don't know what's going on, man.
And I think this is a lot of people right now, so I don't think it's just me. But I used an iPhone since the iPhone 4, and every year it was iPhone 5, iPhone 6, iPhone 7, and just up the. And then the watch came out, and then the iPad, and all of that stuff just started to happen. And then I always tried the Pixels. Like I from the original Pixel, I went and bought it myself. And each generation, the first Pixel, the second, the third, and all of that, right? By the time I hit like the Pixel 4, Google was starting to send me devices, right? Because I'd had a little bit of recognition there. And it never really stuck. And just like I just couldn't get it to work. And I always had that like FOMO, right? Like, oh, my iPhone friends are missing out, and like I'm using a green bubble now, not a blue bubble. And then like the Pixel 6. And for me, that was the very first Google device that come out that I actually went, holy shit, like they've actually got it together. Like they've actually managed to make something that I actually really enjoyed using. And like, I'm a big photo guy too, right? So, the photos on that phone were just what was generating compared to the iPhone 12 and then the 13 that I had at the time. I was just blown away. I'm like, how are they doing this? Like, I mean, they always had good cameras. But just compared to what Apple was doing, I was just like, I just can't. I was just dumbfounded, and then I just kind of fell in love with it. Right. Then I just recently upgraded to the Pixel 7 Pro, and that's a lot of great iteration and development there. The Pixel Watch came out, so they're just developing an ecosystem, and I almost feel like, I almost feel like I'm getting suckered back in to the Apple ecosystem, what it was like 5 years ago. Right. Like that initial kind of like, the drawing force, like I feel like my life force is being sucked in another direction. But yeah, it's
well, and the problem now is when you're going to the Apple ecosystem, there wasn't anything against it, right? You didn't have anything competing. Now you're kind of like, okay, I've been sucked into Apple. I know what that delivers. I know what that provides. I know what my workflow is. Now I've got this, and now you're trying to kind of square the two, but you can't fully extricate out of either. So you got to try to find where the line of demarcation is between like, can I leverage this and how do I do that? And the funny thing is, if you were a Windows Phone guy or a Microsoft guy, you were doing this all the time.
Yes.
Because different OEMs like, okay, well, I can use an iPhone, but then I've got Samsung's got Microsoft services on it, but then I can use it on my Windows PC, and now it's on a Mac. Then I got a boot camp, and I'm like,
I know.
If you're a PC and Windows guy, and you're just kind of used to having to kind of piecemeal stuff just because of the flexibility of manufacturers, right? You just it was just the way it kind of went. Whereas in Apple, it was like just kind of this like you didn't need to worry about going out of the tunnel because everything was just on each side. Here's some stuff, here's some stuff, and here's some stuff. And you go right down the middle. But then you get out to the outside, you get to the garden, you're like, fuck it, I don't need anything else, right?
Thing is though, anyone who's an iPhone user and wants to dabble in Android, I'd always recommend Pixel. Some people would say Samsung, but I'd always recommend Pixel because of the clean UI, the camera experience. It's probably the closest you're going to get in the Android space.
I think for me, like too, with this was the first year with the 7 release here that they're starting to push more than just one device. They're pushing an ecosystem of things. Yeah. And with the tablet coming out, I think that's going to be huge for them. It's the first time they're going to have something that hopefully is like very similar experience to the Pixel phones. Like a stock Android, a quick experience. I was going to ask you, Joe, just while you have it, how are you liking the watch?
I actually really like it. The battery for me is not a big issue. Would I like it to have more battery? Yes, but it's not been a big issue for me. I would perhaps like it a little bit bigger, but then when I say that to people, they say, no, it looks about right.
Right, look, yeah. I think the sweet spot for a smartwatch was always like that 41 to 43 millimeters. I think that's always been right on the money. And I remember, I forget which Apple Watch it was. It might have been like the 3 or the 4, and one of them was like 42 millimeters. It was just the sweet spot for that size. I think the only reason we might see a bigger watch is battery, and I think that's going to be the only reason they'll make one next year. Is like, okay, we've made our 44 millimeter watch, bigger battery, better experience. For me, the biggest issue for me, and I ended up returning mine, was I was having some issues with Fitbit. So I was getting like,
I was going to get onto that.
Yeah, like vastly wild numbers of like how much or how little I was working out. Like, one day I'd run, I'd have my Apple Watch on one, or my Sunto watch on one, and my Pixel Watch on the other. And Sunto is pretty accurate, right? I said they're a fitness maker, like they're pretty good. And it was like I'd run 7 kilometers on my Sunto watch, and then I look at the Pixel Watch, it's like 3 kilometers. I'm like, okay, something's not right there, right?
Yeah, that's definitely well off.
Yeah.
And then for a person like me, I'm using a Mi Band 6.
Yeah.
For Pixel, a Pixel Band would be more.
Yes.
Would be more my speed.
I can see that.
More battery.
I can see that. Yeah.
More. Fit, I mean, not necessarily fitness tracking. I mean, I do work out and I do run a little bit and jog and stuff. And, play golf, but more of don't really need it to do the smartwatch features. Like I don't need to have Spotify apps. I don't really need it to take phone calls. I still can't get used to talking on a wristwatch. It's just weird to me.
She won the OG Fitbit.
Yeah, well, I mean, kind of like what the Samsung did with the Actives, right? Or even something like this, a little bigger. Like I know that Xiaomi makes a 7 Pro. It's more like kind of like a Fitbit Versa style kind of thing. I don't need it that big, but just something that's way more that's focused on more tracking, basic notifications, and like 6 or 7 day battery life.
Yeah,
and we're hitting it at like a $199 price point for people like me. I think that's instead of making Apple Watch bigger, ultra faster. They think they hold on for like maybe Fitbit and these other companies to kind of fill in that tracking. And I think Google could really leverage that by making a $199, Pixel Band or Pixel Fit or whatever, and leverage that. If they do that, I will buy that thing. I won't even hesitate. I will pre-order the damn thing because that's what I'm looking for.
I'm always torn about. I've always worn a fitness watch. So I was like a Garmin person for a little bit there.
I was going to say Garmin are the ones to have.
Yeah, and fitness. I mean, I'm always torn about the, do I need the smartwatch features? I have a Sunto 9 Peak, right, which is just a fitness watch. It doesn't really do smart features. It's just like GPS. It's Bluetooth connected. There's no cellular connectivity or any of that chaos. But yeah, I'm always torn because I always find myself going back to just a fitness watch because I miss the things like battery and I miss the accuracy. I would love, I think you're right, Sam. I would love them to make a, smaller, just basic device that does maybe just GPS tracking, maybe just a fitness focused device, as well as a smartwatch, a fully fledged smartwatch, kind of like a Pixel Watch Pro and a regular Pixel Watch, or Pixel Band, whatever you want to call it. It would be an interesting addition, I think, to that market as well, because there really hasn't been that much in that space that could fit that description. I mean, I know Garmin, they had like a Vivo Smart or something crazy like that, which was one of those kind of like band types. I don't know. I think that would work. I think that would just be something that people would invest in. And I agree with you, Sam. I think that's a really good choice.
One thing it will need, though, is auto tracking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Jimmy's asking a question. Yeah. So do you think he should go for the Fitbit Sense or the Versa coming with the GW4 45mm Bluetooth? I'm not sure if I should go for a Fitbit or a Pixel Watch. I guess that's one of those things where what are you really using a wearable mostly? Is it really for the apps? Like, I mean, I have a Samsung, like a Galaxy Watch. I don't think I've ever used any of the actual apps on the damn thing.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't. And I'm like, so it's great to have, but I really bought it because I want to have some kind of ability to make payments, because the original Duo didn't have, you couldn't make mobile payments with it. It didn't have an NFC chip in it. So that was why I leveraged it. But now that the Duo 2 does, I didn't really need it. So the Pixel Watch, it's literally, it's sitting.
Yeah. Right here. Yeah.
It's probably dead. It's in my drawer, and I haven't probably put it on in 6 months. So
I didn't buy this.
No, you got it?
Yeah. No, in the UK, it come free.
See, that's smart. See, I didn't want to. Here in Toronto, like the Pixel Watch, the Bluetooth version, it's like $550.
Yeah, and price.
Yeah, I couldn't justify that for a first-gen smartwatch with a bad battery and bad fitness tracking. And that might have just been a dud unit that I got. And, I didn't get it for free. I bought it with my own money. Like, it was, I wanted to make sure that I was investing in the ecosystem as well there. To answer the question about Fitbit there, if you were going to go, if you're going to use smart watch features, 100% go for the Pixel Watch. But if you don't care about that and you're more about like working out, fitness and fitness metrics, go for the Fitbit Sense. That would 100% be the winner there. I just saw another question. I think it's from Team Driver. He said, will I be doing YouTube more often for future content? I would love to be able to do YouTube videos, but I honestly hate the sound of my voice. And also,
everyone does, not yours.
I cannot listen to
everyone hates the sound of their own voice.
I can't do it. I like get 10 minutes in, I got to turn it off. Like, Jesus, I sound like I'm an idiot. I'm like, God, I can't stand it.
That's why
I don't think there's anybody, and they do like their voice. You probably need
Darren,
to
you'd be good. I think you'd be good.
Yeah, I think it would be a fantastic, especially reading the written review. And if folks, if you really want to read a really solidly written review, go to the One Cut Reviews and just look at all their stuff, just all this, just things like what's in our fridge. Like, I love that stuff.
Oh yeah, them cold brews. Them cold brews look cool.
There's some electric toothbrush stuff.
Yeah, they look nice.
Talk about the Huawei watch, which I probably would go for because I'm kind of a low key like Huawei fan. But just all sorts of stuff in there. But yeah, read the review on the 7 and 7 Pro that he does. It's really fantastic. But yeah, sorry to be kind of like that. No, but I agree. I don't like it either. I just like I listen to the show just to make sure I hear what it sounds like, just to edit it, and then I don't want to listen to it.
I mean,
I think you'd do great.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I mean, I think for me, like, it's just a time thing too. Like between, just finding the time to be able to put it together. And I'm a very like obsessive person, so like I want it to be imperfect.
Right.
And I think I don't know if that's something that I would spend so much time getting it right. I mean, even like the written reviews, like I'm spending hours, and it may not look like it, but I'm like going over it and I'm changing words and phrasing and just to get it the way that I want it to sound. And it gets easier and easier each time. But I would absolutely love to do video reviews, maybe in the near future, when I get the opportunity to.
And it's funny, our buddy of the show, Roger Life Attack, he says the same thing. He listens to it and he can't stand it, and he re-records it, and he listens to it and he can't stand it. He records. He said he's almost like paralyzing. He almost can't get it done just because it's like almost.
He's found his calling now, though. I think Rogerbot is his calling.
Yeah, but he had the same kind of story. He said the same exact, almost verbatim what you said as far as listening to it and trying to get it just right. And I think sometimes it's like at some point you got to put your best forward and just kind of put it out there and then let the feedback kind of drive, because a thing you may think is a deal breaker or something that's going to turn somebody off. Maybe nobody's paying attention to it, and maybe it's a completely other thing that you think you're doing right, and that's what's disengaging people. So sometimes it's almost you're behind the 8 ball trying to get it to like perfectly polished, and you're almost like, well, if you never put it out there, then it doesn't matter with the feedback. Yeah, you got to get something out there. So I think it's not as bad as you ever think. I think we're always worse critics on those things.
Well, I don't know if you guys have heard of like Aussie Man reviews. And if you
he's fantastic. I love that guy. That stuff, some of that stuff. I mean, I've had to like pause it just to stop laughing so I can listen to the. He's fantastic. I think
if I was gonna do it, I'd have to blend like the best elements of Aussie Man reviews and like a day in the life of. And that would just to kind of like merge together a different kind of angle or approach on it, right?
And he's the one that really
that sounds brilliant.
Some of the Australian slang, like the macas. Sure. And, it was like, what did he say? What is it? And then he asked. That it's funny because he had these little bits where he was asking like celebrities, like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a phrase. You tell me what you think it is," and they're like, "Not even close."
Like the budgie smuggler,
right?
Budgie smugglers.
Yeah.
Look that one up if you're listening out there.
I know what that is.
Sheila, yeah, of course.
Sheila, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like I get asked that question all the time. Like like, hey, why don't you pivot into video reviews? And again, maybe potentially, like one day it's maybe on the cards. Right now, though, I think we've got a pretty good following of the website and our Instagram and stuff. So we're pretty happy to kind of just keep doing what we're doing and and move from there. But one day we'll see. Unless I get like hideously burned in a chemical fire or something,
right?
It should be okay.
Or I guess the other thing is too is I guess are you trying to basically? I mean, obviously, if things take off, it's like, well, if I was getting more money than I could be as an educator, I would clearly leverage this. But
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like that's what your plan is. Like, you're like, I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be an educator.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not really looking now if it just happens to take off. The problem is like, you still have to work a 9 to 5. And I know teachers don't work 9 to 5.
No.
They have to grade papers. They've got to read.
No, they certainly don't.
Right. That is not a 9 to 5 job. So it's like,
my wife's a primary school teacher, so
oh, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and so that's a lot too. It's like it'd be easier if you had just a regular job where you clocked in, clocked out, and there was no really kind of after the fact work to do. But I know people in any kind of education field are doing extracurricular off time, working on papers, working on grading, meeting with students if necessary to help out. So I guess that's going to be the problem. Is that, I mean, how much bandwidth do you really have? And
yes,
yeah, that's always the thing. It's like, I guess if it starts to tilt a little bit, you can start to leverage it, and then maybe that's a thing. So we're just telling you how to run your website. And that's what we're doing here right honestly, now. And you should just do that and like shut up and just do it. Because we clearly know what's best for you.
Yeah,
you know, it's
we can manage you. It's all right.
Yeah, that's fine. No worries. Yeah. It's you know, for me, it always started as it was a bit of a hobby at first. You know, like I said, you know, a lot of these companies were like, screw you, buddy, like hit the bricks. But then when a company said, you know, sure, you know, here's 14 cases of camel's milk, which is a true story, right? Like, you know, like, we want you to review camel's milk. Here is, you know, like 14 cases of it. Go for it and go and write this up, review up. And then all of a sudden, like, oh shit, I've actually got to do this now, right? So then I had to dedicate myself to, you know, the retrying the product. And, you know, I will tell you a little story about the camel's milk. It tasted about as bad as it sounded. And, you know,
it doesn't sound good. I almost drink like almond and all those other kinds of things just because, I mean, they're not really milk, they're really juice. Like I said, I have to go with Lewis Black, right? He goes, if you don't have a tit, you don't have milk. Sorry, buddy. It's soy juice. That's what you're drinking, and just live with it, right?
It was funny because I was talking to this company, they reached out to me, they said, hey, do you want to review this? I'm like, sure. I was thinking they were going to send like 1, 2 bottles, sure. All of a sudden, I get this like cooler on my front porch, like literally like a little cooler about, you know, 8 by 6, I guess. And there were like, honestly, like 15 bottles in there, but not just like regular. There was like the fermented version of camel milk, and there was like, so there was like an intensive like box of just things, and I had to try each and every one of these in like just little bits, right? Because it was, to me, it wasn't to my taste necessarily, but I could definitely see there would be people out there who are like, well, I don't want to drink milk of a cow. Maybe a camel is better. So, you know, it wasn't horrible, but like there were like the fermented one I could barely get down. Like there
I can imagine.
Few things,
and I guess and my question is, did you get the missus involved in like?
Maybe
you should try this because maybe this is your thing, because it's like I'm not feeling it, but maybe I'm just a weird guy. Maybe. I do that a lot with my wife. I'll think things are good.
There you go.
It doesn't.
Did you try like different things with it? Did you like in coffee, and did you have it in cereal?
Cereal, coffee. I tried a milkshake, which was a mistake.
Right. Deployments of all the things you would do with regular milk, right? You would let cereal. You would.
I'm gonna give it my best go here, right?
Right. It just wasn't your jam. Well, that makes sense. I mean, So.
I mean, but again, you know, like I also didn't want to like slam it and say it's the worst thing I've ever tried, because it wasn't. I mean, you know, there's other things that I've eaten and drunk that I've gone, this is probably not the greatest thing ever. But I do remember, and it's funny, like in the very early on, there's not a lot of companies who get upset with our reviews, but there was a couple of companies that got a little bit upset with me. And one of them was, I won't say the name of the brand, but it was a backpack.
Okay.
They reached out, they're like, we've got this funky design backpack. Do you want to review it? Sure. So like I'm a teacher by trade. So my backpack is on my shoulder all the time. So I'm like, if I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna dump all my shit in this backpack and I'm gonna take it to work. So when I got the backpack, you know, when you open up a backpack, there's usually compartments, like a divider and zippers and all that. This thing was just fucking empty. There was nothing inside it. Not a zipper, not a divider, nothing to be seen. And I remember in the review, I wrote, it's a beautiful looking bag, but it's not very functional. You know, where am I going to?
Just fair.
You know, so that's what I said, right? So, I posted the review. They emailed me literally an hour later, and they're like,
"Oh wow,
why are you saying horrible things about this backpack?" And I remember, like, and it's one of the very few times that they were getting kind of pissy with me. And they're like, we want you to change it. And I'm like, I was early on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to change it. So I replied back. I'm like, and this was kind of
make a better backpack.
Yeah, I just said to them, I'm like, look, it's not, doesn't work for me as a consumer. And that's what the whole premise of One Cut Reviews was. Like, I'm a guy that's going to go and buy this backpack, probably for work. And you're telling me that, like, I can't say that it needs to have compartments on the inside. Right. And yeah, so I mean, they got kind of pissy with me, and I refused to change it, and they've never reached out to me again, and they've never, I left it up there. I left the post on our social media. They didn't threaten legal action or anything crazy like that. But I mean, it's not uncommon for. Sometimes it happens. A company will say, "Hey, we didn't like what you said here. Could you change this line?" Or like, whatever. But for us, we try to hold. Like, I try to not bend to that as much as I can't, because if I do that once, then it's everybody wants me to change their things, right? So there's no like editorial approval or anything like that on One Cut Reviews. It legitimately is like me trying these products and me saying they're honest to God, sometimes maybe a little bit too truthful things about.
No, you can't be too truthful. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, right. And you would think, they'd want someone who's coming from an average consumer's perspective, right? Like, hey, like, this is what we think. Oh, we can make it better because of this person's review. But that's the response you should have. They should think, yes, actually, this guy's right. The backpack is empty inside.
Well, and maybe here's the thing. Maybe there are people who don't need compartments in their backpack. They are okay with just having a sack, right? They don't really care. Again, you're not their target. But if you're a professional or you're an educator, you kind of want to have things segregated. But there's a lot of people just like, maybe I'm going to the beach with it, so I'm just going to throw a towel and some flip-flops. I don't give a shit what it is. It don't matter. Actually, compartments would actually get in the way, because then I got to try to figure out, like, it takes the space out of the bag. So it's like, I guess these companies, again, this just goes to show you, they're really not wanting an honest review. And they made us say, well, it sounds like you're not our target, or, hey, maybe your commentary can indicate that, hey, maybe for me, my workflow requires compartments on a bag because I got to separate stuff. You may be going to the beach or going hiking. Well, fuck it. Throw it in the back. I don't care. Right? It's whatever. Yeah. But instead of just like, we want you to change it, I'm like, well, then why'd you have me review it at all? Just write your own fucking review and be done.
Yeah.
Like,
why get me to
bullshit you want?
Well, the thing was, and I think, what made me kind of like, I obviously came at it like okay, so if I was using this myself, like, would this work for me? It didn't. But they were marketing it as a tech backpack. So that was their approach, right? So I'm like, okay, so you're marketing a tech backpack where there's no zipper, no like compartment, no division, no padded interior. It was a fucking sack, like with a lid, right? Like, that's what it was. And I'm like, so I'm like, how do you put tech in this, right? Like, do you just shove your camera and your phone and just dump it all on top of each other? And
it scratches each other up, the housing gets all beat up. Like, who gives a shit? Yeah. Put a towel in there. Quit being such a sissy. You're not applying yourself. Well, that sounds like that wasn't a great idea, but here's a great idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Put a skin on your phone, right? You don't want to get your shit scratched.
That's a great idea, Sam.
Skins on your phone, you wouldn't give a shit about necessarily having compartments in your backpack.
Wait a minute, Sam, someone's already come up with that idea.
Yeah. Extreme Skins got code.
Extreme Skins.
Our sponsor, check them out, man. They make skins for like laptops and phones. And here's the best part.
Just say, they reached out to me just the other day and they said, hey, Darren, would you like to review some of Extreme Skins? And I said, that sounds like an amazing idea. So coming soon to onecutReviews.com, you're actually going to see some Extreme Skins.
There you go.
Oh, excellent.
Excellent. And we'll already tell you. We're
perfect
biased,
timing.
And we're biased as hell. So they're awesome. And they're way better than other brands as far as price. They work great. They come, and also if you put on their skins wrong, just be careful. If you apply the skin incorrectly, Darren, they are going to roast you on Twitter. They're going to tell you you're a moron.
It's fine.
There are a bunch of cheeky folks over there. There's some cheeky fellows and ladies over there. So check them out. Extremeskins.co.uk. We'll get you some stuff. But be honest. Here's another thing. If you get an issue with their skins, I guarantee if you reach out to them and tell them stuff, they're not gonna act like backpack fuckers over there. They're gonna really probably tell you what's
backpack wankers.
Well, I'll be honest.
Wankers.
Yes.
Sorry.
Wankers. Yes.
Wankers.
Yeah, they're tosses.
So check them. That's kind of interesting. We were just segueing into our sponsor, and you're like, they reached out. I'm like, they're awesome. Yeah, they're fantastic folks. They're great.
I heard they make amazing skins, so that's what I was told. So absolutely. There you go. Coming soon.
And then also the Purposely Pixel show. So like our YouTube channel, Lenny and all the team over there. Another great resource if you like all things Pixel, if you just like other stuff. Now I don't think they're doing toothbrushes. Probably
no.
I think Lenny has got a toothbrush, I'm sure.
I think he owns one and probably uses it very often. However, you're not going to talk about it on the stream. No. So, or his channel, or he's not going to review it. But he will review Pixels and other phones, and they're fantastic groups, and they're ones that host this complete idiocy that we talk about in our podcast. So just check that out. Purposely Pixels YouTube channel. Guys are over there great, and then we appreciate their support. We love those guys over there. They really do a great job taking care of us. So, well, hell, guess what, man? We're at 1 hour already. See what I was talking about? It's insane. Right? We didn't really get into.
I wanted to ask Darren one thing though.
Yeah.
He's had so many different products in the year. What's been your favorite product this year so far?
Oh, so we're saving that for product of the year because we have a big.
Oh, okay, all right. We'll leave it then.
But I will say this much just before we wrap up. So the companies that reach out to me the most, as in like the genre, the category. I don't know how this started. We get a plethora of sex toy companies reach out to us at One Cut Reviews. And I know I'm leaving the best till last year. I should have probably talked about this earlier. I'm sorry. But
no, I think I'm glad you had it at the end because now we got to get out of here because that could really kind of start a whole other conversation because you got a missus. She may have friends. And you know how that goes. And so
listen.
Oh God! It's like you're sending me. And the funny thing is, if you're like, so we're clear, sweetheart. I didn't order any of this shit.
No,
like this is literally unsolicited. She's like, what in the hell is this stuff? You're like, wait a minute.
Listen, hold on, before she opens up our mail. Yeah, she opens up our mail.
She opens the doorstep. I'm like, is that box ticking? No, it's vibrating.
Yes. The first time she opened it, it was a surprise. I'll say that much.
Yeah, she's like, you wanted to be talking to me about something? I'm like, no, I don't know what's happening right now, and I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna stand here, and if you want to scream and yell or like that, I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I mean, especially if you didn't have a chance to preload that conversation. Hey, we're gonna be reviewing stuff, and there's a possibility that we may be getting adult entertainment style things to review. You might. I don't know if you've had that conversation prior to your review history, but if you didn't, that's an awkward way to get into that conversation, I would assume. Oh boy.
Listen, they make when they're not when I sometimes they send more than one product, right? So like we'll get a couple of different versions of the product. They make great Christmas gifts. I'll be honest with you. Like, here you go. Grandma. Oh no, I don't. Sorry, wrong gift. But
Secret
like
Santa.
Secret Santa gifts they're beautiful for. Like,
do I have to inflate this myself, or can I like? Because I don't want to. I don't know what's going on. It's like, is this edible? It is. I don't know. I got nothing. I don't know what else to happen. So yeah, excellent and perfect.
Yeah.
New
the Dildo Pro Max.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Is there an Ultra? Does it have Bluetooth capability? I mean, does that? I'm not buying it. I'm not using this product. It's only got 90 hertz refresh, so you can keep your fucking.
Quick little thought to end it on. One that we did get actually was Bluetooth, and it played music at the same time. So I learned.
Amazing.
That's a little creepy, but okay. Fascinating world. So instead of having like ambiance music in your apartment, brilliant. It's coming out of the device. It's like, I don't think it lands the same, but okay, shit, whatever.
Sometimes they've got good, interesting ideas on how they can make spice things up in the bedroom, right? So
yeah, interesting.
Competitive market.
That's a great. I was going to say that's definitely a market where you're going to have some engagement.
For sure. Yes.
Exactly.
Lots of readers love that one.
Absolutely. So if that's a great way to end the show. So we'll go ahead and stop there. But again, Darren, we really appreciate you taking time. I know
big time. It's been really fun.
And it's a Sunday, so you probably got classes in the morning. So
it's all good,
a bunch of stuff. So we really appreciate you taking your time and share with us your stories. And we'd love to have you on again because we have to have a season
absolutely,
at some point. Although I don't know when we're going to have it. I don't know.
We've just cracked the egg on the dildos. So
don't worry, there's lots more I can talk about. You guys,
and of course, you mentioned anything sex toys related, and of course, here comes Aditya with all because he's waiting, just waiting for it. So, again, so for myself and for Joe and for Darren, thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening. Download the podcast, like and sub stuff, and maybe put a review. Tell us we suck. I'm okay at this point. I don't think we ever had a review, and if we do, have a review.
And definitely read his reviews on his website.
Check out the
website.
Very
nice website.
We'll make sure, Darren, we put the links to your Instagram and your One Cut reviews and everything else. And again, I will see you on the Fury. And Joe, you should check it out if you guys stay up late.
Man.
I'll definitely give it a go. Yeah.
And that's it. So for myself, for Joe, for Darren, that's the show. We'll see you next Sunday. We don't have a guest lined up, but whatever, we'll still show up.
We'll find someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's it. So enjoy your tech and have a good day. Stay safe.
Thanks,
we love you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.